Oh, Jesus, God, George, no. You have to tell me when you're coming.
It's summer video time, Mark.
I'm going to have to call the police.
It's summer video time.
God, George, you have to let me know when you're coming. You can't just turn up unannounced, man.
I'm here, Mark. The camera's on. Let's start summer tour.
Fine.
Right plant, right place.
So where am I showing you? You've shown up unannounced.
I think we need to see everything. I mean, we'll come back to this amazing tropical greenhouse, but first off, Mark, let's see some of this new planting you've been talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of gone wild this year. I can confidently say this is the first year I've decided to go all out.
All out.
All out. Balls and everything.
There we go.
Yeah, it's the most full it's ever been. I've got the most tender, exotic planting, and even like, I would say I've kind of been the last few years a bit basic on the whole kind of like, you know, the standard kind of normal entry level tropical gardening stuff, but this year I've upped the ante. I've gone for it.
And I should say a little clarity there. The balls you're referring to are your beautiful water feature spheres in the garden, obviously. So
exactly.
There's no need for a PG or 18 rating for this video just yet.
Not just yet. No. Give it half an hour.
So, I mean, I'm going to head past all this. We'll come back to this part of the garden because I think we need to start here, Mark. This looks beautiful. Look at this. This looks like a properly finished garden, doesn't it?
It's shocking to me as well, George. I have to be honest. It's looking full. It's looking magnificent. Yeah, I'm really happy with it this year.
I think that really shows, and I can tell obviously you put a lot more of your free time into choosing some cool plants. Everything really flows so much better, and just the finishing touches. I mean, I think I noticed a bit of a change in this area here. There used to be a phoenix, didn't there, just over there?
So there used to be a phoenix here that was very unhappy, that wasn't doing very well. This has been replaced by an Ensete Hiniba, underplanting with some impassions, underplanting with
look at this,
some of the weird and wonderful
Strobilanthus, is it?
Yeah, it's the Brazilian shield job.
It is indeed, yes. And then we have that, didn't we, at Sunk Island?
So that's a Sunk Island job.
Yeah.
This is a Sunk Island job. This is a Sunk Island job. And then this beautiful one that really fills out, and I got some nasturtiums coming through as well. Some coleus, which has been ravaged by slugs. Don't get me started on slugs. Bit of osteospermum coming through.
Fantastic.
Agapanthus in full flow, begonia torsa. Nothing, nothing absolutely crazy. Really nothing absolutely...
You say that, but I think for people who've seen these videos before, looking around your amazing garden, this is the first time we visited this year. It's now the beginning of August. I think the effort, the huge amount of plants you put into your garden this year, it looks better than ever. So
yeah, thank you.
I think we need to see around it.
But even stuff like the Lepissimum boliviana, maybe.
The jungle cactus, is it?
So these even hanging up and stuff. I have gone for it.
You really have. And this is obviously a bit of an impromptu video, isn't it? I've finished a long day at work. I've come around here. You've obviously been busy watering, planting, tending your garden.
Like green-fingered tending. There is an obvious omission here.
There is.
Ginormous Euphorbia pasteuri, John Phillips.
Huge dome of a plant.
It had to go, but look how much has replaced it.
Yes.
I mean, Tiphonias, this Solanum Lanciatum. I wanted the lineafolia, couldn't get it. Brugmansia in flower. The smell of that at night is terrific.
Well,
and Ensete Montbeliardii. You know how much I love these. And Ensete Montbeliardii are just, for me, they're so much hardier than... Hardy is the wrong word. They're so much tougher than Morellii.
I have heard that, yes.
They seem to tolerate overwintering so much better. And that's a 3-year-old one for me. This is 4 years old. And I mean, I'm not a small bloke.
Well, you are looking smaller than what you were,
smaller than what I was, okay.
I've got to say, yeah, people have seen the videos before. There is a pretty substantial change on the go. I mean, how do your friends and family feel about the massive loss to both your sense of humour and body mass? No comment.
I'm wounded, George. I'm wounded.
Well, we'll go through this video and let people make
I don't think the weight loss has necessarily meant that comedy values drop, but I'm sure some of you viewers will feel that is absolutely. I painted the monkeys a few years ago with yoghurt.
Yes, you did indeed.
It wasn't my yoghurt. It was natural yoghurt.
Thank you for clarifying that.
They weren't proportional, let's say.
We'll see, we'll see.
Yeah, let's say.
So sort of steering it back to plants, because people tend to click on these videos because of that. Obviously the Montbeliardii, or Monty, as you affectionately know it,
Yeah.
that is a stretched out form, isn't it, of Morellii.
Yes.
Bit rarer, but like you say, a little bit tougher, potentially, but easier, and they get the height so much quicker, don't they?
They are rarer, they are harder to find, and there is no doubt about it, the initial purchase price of these guys is more than a Morellii, but I have lost more Morellii than I care to remember, whereas
Yes.
these guys, they make it through winter without that basal rot that seems to affect Morellii so much more.
And they just look cool as well, don't
I
they?
think they look awesome.
Especially
Yeah.
when it goes forward into sort of year 4 and 5, and that thing will be 5 metres tall. Just, it'll look incredible, won't it?
Hopefully. Well, I have 3 of them. I've got the big boy here, middle guy here, and in the palm beds over there, I've got a smaller, maybe 2-year-old one there.
Wow. It looks incredible over there.
Yeah, I have gone for it.
You really have. So
Yeah.
going back to this area here, I think well, really, it's like the Secret Garden of Louth. The collection of pots in front of a border, it just absolutely sets it off, doesn't it? It looks complete,
And
really stunning.
And I have to say that is where I drew my inspiration from. So Jenny and Roger, it's your fault that I've been doing this, because I had the pots, but they gave me the vision and they gave me the inspiration to just say, right, let's get all this stuff in pots. It's more watering, it's more hassle, it's more miracle grow. But you know, I think it has been so worthwhile. And
Absolutely, it's the finishing touch, isn't it?
yeah, but also having the, you know, a lot.
Ooh, which one's this one?
It's just a begonia mix.
Is this one of those new begonias?
It is
It's
one of the new
something moon.
begonias. Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen, but I actually got one of these as a birthday present from Shane Bilson. Lovely guy, amazing garden. I'll put a link to his video in the description below.
I was watching it earlier.
Were you really?
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to see how to do it from the professionals.
Well, there we go. It was fantastic to visit a garden with someone so friendly, with so much knowledge, so just really professional.
Complete
about the whole
opposite
job.
to me then. Thanks
Absolute
very much. Yeah, I knew exactly where you were going with it,
Oh, that was
George.
too easy. I haven't had a lot of sleep last night, but I'll hopefully make this video a little bit more informative and entertaining as we go around. No promises though.
No promises. Definitely not from you. So changed in this area here. Salvia amistad, we talk about it a lot. It's such a good doer, it's fantastic. Crocosmias, they're in their 4th or 5th year. They're really multiplying, looking fantastic. Eucomis coming through, different ferns. I've got a Xanthodacia Hercules, which is, you know, all these things are going to grow and grow and grow and fill out and look really great.
So for me, I think you watch, I won't mention any specific TV programs, but you watch your gardening programs, you see them talk about easy plants that everyone should be growing, and most of them, let's face it, are a little bit boring. But for me, Salvia amistad, Crocosmia, they're as exciting as anything else, aren't they? Huge, great big vivid drifts of colour when they get to a decent size. They just absolutely belong in an exotic garden, don't they?
Yeah, and the combination of plants here as well, I think, you know, the leaf forms, the different greens and zings of colour and pops of colour. And you know that I have previously tried to stick to, this is the theme of this area, this is the theme of this area, and the whole garden has a similar colour palette. Whereas this year, there's just pops of colour everywhere.
It's just unrestrained tropical vibes, isn't it? To give it a CD album title.
You'll be able to show an overview of my dead palm tree from last year, I'm sure. Well, this has been replaced by the Butyagrus palm from Nigel at Hardy Palms. I'm always very big on trying to support these guys.
The specialists.
That really keep our passion alive.
So for the people who don't know what this particular plant is, this is the Butyagrus eriospatha or eriospatha, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
Which is the toughest version of, well, we'll say the toughest version of each plant of the cross, isn't it, essentially? So in this one, you've got the Butia eriospatha, which is we'll say it's not only the toughest, but also one of the fastest growing Butias in the cooler climate, isn't it?
Both of which it was selected for in this area, because obviously you can see it beyond. You've got the big Brachiarmatas that look fantastic. And I looked at replacing like for like, same size trunk, same number of leaves. And it was like $1,000.
It's a lot of money,
It was a lot of money. And although my OCD wanted to kick in and say, no, you have to carry on with the theme.
I was going to mention that, yes.
This was substantially more affordable. And in theory, it is just as hardy, if not hardier.
That's it. So I can talk about, you know, real budget gardens till the cows come home, but ultimately, a lot of you watching this, you want to spend proper money, but you want a proper garden that performs for that money, don't you? So I think really, if you're going to look at, say, a budget of £1,000 to add a specimen to your garden, something like that Brahia, it really is a lot of money for something that's, we'll say, borderline hardy, as you found out.
Yeah.
Whereas this palm here has real exciting potential. They're around a few £100, so not a cheap purchase, but the remaining 700 that you save, or, you know, 4, 5, 6, 700 pounds.
It's filled the rest of the garden,
Exactly.
and then some, with all of this colour that you see. And for me, that alone makes it probably the only sensible gardening decision I've made in the last 5 years.
There we go. So if you came on this video for practical advice, that's it there.
That's
Turn
the
off now.
shock right there.
Things are
You
going to
can
get a
end the
little bit
video,
crazy.
I was sensible.
As you pass through here, I think we need to just stop for a second, forget the plants, Mark, just zoom in on your absolutely fabulous ball here.
It's not green.
It's not green.
It's not green.
So for people
Look at it.
who've been watching this series, just a couple of years ago, this ball was, well, we'll say it was a, I think
My
on the
balls
line,
hadn't been particularly well cared for.
it hadn't been cared for at all, had it,
Green,
Mark?
covered in
Scummy algae, yeah.
It needs a bit of extra water, and it has been. When it's warm, it needs topping up. So it's lagging a little bit now. I should have probably done that before you got here, but I didn't know you were coming, obviously.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, it's an Aqua globe that I got a few years ago, again, to fit with the whole
I
globe
think it looks
theme.
very cool.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I think every garden has to have water in it in some description. I don't think a garden without water is a garden, personally.
There we go.
You know, making these bold statements, but
Yeah, you've made it. I thought you
Speaking
were going to
of
say no gardens are going without an aqua globe. Today's video is sponsored by well, absolutely
sponsored by
no one.
Aqua globe. Commission pending.
Yes.
So
Let's look at this, Mark.
yeah, this
Wow.
is what I would probably describe as my Colocasia theatre, I guess. I don't know whether that's the grandiose
No, I think-
title you should give it.
I think we'll go for it. In your sprawling country estate, a theatre is only appropriate, isn't it?
So avid viewers of the series might remember that this was Persicaria, the Earth globe.
It was just a wall of Persicaria, wasn't it?
Sprawling Persicaria. Well, that's been picked out, it's been split, some of it's been given away, some of it's been redistributed in the garden. And the decision this year was to put in Colocasias, inspired by a chap on Facebook called Tony, Tony's Tropical Plants, I think maybe, and the main star of the show, in theory, should be these guys, which are Colocasia Mammoth. Now, the photos of these things when they're in full sun, full heat,
yes.
and seriously watered and fed,
Yeah.
they are ginormous.
They
Now,
are indeed.
These are this year's bulbs. They're already quite big, but the plan is they're also supposed to be hardy if protected.
Correct.
So all of this Metallica, pink china, mammoth, black coral, probably suffering a wee bit. More Metallica. There's a ginger in here, ginger there. The plan is that I'm going to get a sort of low level, metre wide by 2 metres long polytunnel that's going to go over the top.
Tunnels,
Yeah, fill it full of straw.
Yeah.
And that's the advice I was given. And hopefully all of this lot will be able to stay in the ground. The pink china will get a head start. The Metallica's touch and go. But the mammoth, I'm assured, should be okay if kept dry and, you know, not drastically, ridiculously frozen.
No, correct. I mean, to be fair, mammoth was actually one of the plants that got me into the sort of tropical gardening again the second time around, if you like. And I only grew it inside a conservatory, but the leaves were well over a metre long there. So I think outdoors, if you got this size already at the beginning of August, I think we're going to see something special here. If not later this summer, then definitely next summer.
Fingers crossed. The principle behind it was, Tony's recommendation originally was to have one in a pot, have one in the border, put one in full sun, and put one where I want it to be, compare and contrast and see what happens. Well, this isn't full sun.
No.
This is north-facing aspect. It does get sun, but there isn't really anywhere in the garden that does have full sun exposure that I thought it could go into.
Not all day long necessarily.
No. And so I decided that this is where it was going to go. That's what I was going to put it in, and that's where it was going to live. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it looks great. And
I'd agree there.
obviously the Musa basjoo has really gone for it. The
Yes.
people will know famously that I don't protect them in any way, shape or form. Well,
No.
that is changing.
Ooh.
I am going to try and protect some of the bigger stems.
Right, okay.
I'm going to try and keep the height into next year. Don't want them to try and get cut down to, you know, by the frost. So some select stems or select clumps certainly, or really depending on, because I've never done it before. So it's going to be a real lesson for me to try and establish what I can do and how to go about it. But this is going to look unrecognisable in winter. There's going to be flipping polytunnels everywhere. There's going to be great big cloches, untold amounts of straw.
But hopefully absolutely worth it.
Fingers crossed. Big Hiniba here.
Oh yes, look
Big
at that
Hiniba.
beast.
It looks absolutely fantastic.
Huge
Again,
leaves on
a
that.
4 or 5 year old plant that. And yeah, they look fantastic.
So Hiniba is essentially the green form of your Monty, isn't it? Montbeliardii.
Yeah, this one was released by Yorkshire Chris 4 or 5 years ago to another collector, and I managed to pick it up at the start of the year because it grew too big for them. They weren't able to overwinter it, decided they wouldn't be able to overwinter it this year, and I took on that problem.
That opportunity, that
Yeah,
possibility.
okay, yeah, I mean, that's probably a better
amazing
word
potential.
for it, in all fairness. Yeah,
For me, this area of the garden, it looks a lot like some of the American tropical style gardens you see, where over there, I know they have cold winters, they protect stuff, but in summer, the heat really gets the big leaves shooting up, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
hopefully, with your beautiful blend of, we've got a nice mulch going down here, haven't we?
Yes.
Watering and feeding, you get similar results here, even in a cooler part of North Lincolnshire.
Hopefully.
Hopefully so.
These guys have been getting weekly Miracle Grow, chicken poo, fish blood and bone meal.
Wow.
I mean, compared to my normal level, they have been wined and dined.
Yeah.
They have been truly, truly pampered. And it remains to be seen, but I'm hoping that we're going to have some real success with these guys.
Absolutely. And look at this, Spanish moss. It looks just
Yeah, I mean,
incredible,
obviously
doesn't it?
there's an abundance of it, but
certainly
my
is.
plan here with the Loquat, I think I've said in a previous video, when you're in America in those really temperate areas, I love the look of the plumeria, which is the frangipan. Well,
Similar leaf structure, isn't
this
it?
is, for me, is the British poor man's frangipan. It's hardy in the UK.
You say poor man's.
Poor
It's
man's
still a beautiful
frangipan.
exotic
It
specimen
is,
tree, but yes.
but if you want a plumeria in this country,
Yes.
you're not having it. This
very true.
is the next best. And for me, I wanted it to look like a Floridian, you know, where those trees that you see that are like just decorated
the live
in
oaks,
this
isn't
stuff.
it? When you see the moss just dangling from every trunk and stem, it's beautiful.
So there's
isn't it?
loads of Spanish moss around the garden, and thankfully I have an abundance of it from the greenhouse. The greenhouse is empty of Spanish moss
Well,
now.
we'll be going to
So it's-
greenhouse later on, won't we?
But it's all here.
Splendid. Wow.
Next thing to probably go towards is to say the Miscanthus lutarioriparius and the eucalyptus that have just gone massive. I mean, I don't know how tall they are now, 6 metres?
I'd say for you, Matt, that's actually quite a conservative guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think they probably are around that. Yeah, well
And,
done.
the Miscanthus has got a bit more growing to do, I would say.
It certainly has.
Yeah, and they've gone absolutely insane this year, and I'm really happy with them. I did sell some at the start of the year, and thinning it out has affected the...
Should we have a look?
Yeah, we'll go through, yeah.
Lead the way.
Let me just move my bush for you, George.
Yeah, that was a good example of the humour I was talking about. Right, look in here. It's
So those-
Miscanthus forest, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and that beautiful bamboo-like glaucous tinge to the stems is just, it's fantastic. The noise from it, I have let it go wild.
It's a runner. So Miscanthus lutarioriparius, this beauty here, it is definitely a runner. It's not something that potentially might run. We both got this plant in 2020 spring. I know I planted mine out, and within 1 year, it was already enough to fill probably 3 or 4 70-litre pots. And here, well, 4 years later, it's run through the whole border, hasn't it?
It has, and there's a huge amount that's been pulled out. And what I have found is in the areas that I have pulled it out, you
Yeah.
can see here, it seems to have affected the underground structure of it, and it's all sending out these bent culms that are then growing up on angles.
It's leaning a little bit.
Yeah, but it hasn't stopped it from still getting up there.
Not at all. It is still an absolute monster in the garden. And what you find is, as the season goes on, the stems really colour up to be like a beautiful sort of pinky, almost purple colour, don't they?
Yes.
And then you can take off these old leaf bases there, and you get to, I'm not doing any weird gestures, Mark.
It's like some phallic gesture there, George.
It's something you have to avoid in every bamboo video.
Yeah, the giant marinda. I mean, it's not something you can buy in a shop.
No.
You see them nowhere. Now, fortunate enough that
Let's see your hand on that cane to really show its size.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, the girth. It's
That is some girth, that.
it's fantastic.
We said we weren't going to have
We weren't going to do that.
anything dubious in this video, but
Yeah, so-
I think this is a taste of what's to come. To me, this really is a grass that dominates an area of the garden, doesn't it? Whether you want it to or not, it's there.
Yeah, if you don't want it to dominate the garden, then don't flipping well plant it. But if you do want, if you've got the space, like I have, to let it go and let it run and let it just enjoy itself.
Or use a barrier, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that would have been sensible, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
But, you know.
You can also grow it in pots, and the aforementioned one that I've got in my garden is now in a couple of centilitre pots, along with some other plants that I gave and sold away. And you still get a 6 metre plant, even in a pot, so well worth trying, definitely.
Yeah.
This banana bed is looking good.
The banana bed's looking good. Again, you'll be able to see, I don't know when, the SOM where it's been cut down to the ground. These plants last year weren't protected. We had a mild winter, thankfully. So some of the plants started off with a good metre and a half of pseudostem, and they are tall. You know, the top of the paddles is probably going to be, I don't know, 13, 14 feet.
And I think we're again back to the old Mark Goodlad.
Yeah, probably.
Probably not a million miles away though. We'll say definitely a good 10 foot, isn't it?
But it would be lovely to see, you know, the likes of Jenny and Roger's garden where you've got a 7 or 8 thick clump of 10-foot stems.
Yeah.
Just to start the year, you know.
It really is impressive.
It really is, and that ultimately is the inspiration behind trying to protect these guys this year and trying to give them that, you know, trying to give them that stability to say, you've got a head start. Let's try and get to the stage of they look that impressive.
When you get those new leaves coming through and they're not ripped by the wind, they just look so cool, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this little microclimate and having the Miscanthus on the back here with a fence is there's a lot of leaves here that, you know, I mean, okay, we've not had it really windy, but the leaves look pristine.
They do indeed.
The leaves look really pristine. There's no shredding to them. They're not pulled about. So they are fairly mollycoddled, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I would sort of feature on, we've talked about in the past, we use this border as an example of what happens if you don't protect, how plants get tougher the longer in the ground. But for me, the key thing is plants like Persicaria that have really proved their worth in years gone by. These are the filler plants that have done a great job, haven't they, of just economically and quickly filling up the garden. You're now at a point where you want more variety, don't you? You want more of that sort of cool, in-your-face tropical impact.
Yeah.
It's time to move these plants around now, which can be easily done, can't it? Absolutely. Just
I mean, you can cut this into pieces, chuck it on the grass, and not on bare ground.
And
it'll
grows
root.
again.
Yeah. It's bomb-proof stuff, and these things have their place, and they look fantastic in the place. You know, they can soften edges, they grow through, they look really cool. But you know, even though they have their place, they're kind of one of the entry-level things.
That's it, yeah. Filler plant is essentially, well, I don't want to say disposable, but a plant you can easily dig up, move around the garden, and when it's time to go for something different, something cooler, they can be moved and it's ready for it, isn't it?
And that is kind of what I have done this year, is I've really tried to level up, would be the word I would probably use.
I think leveling up is certainly an appropriate phrase, and not just for the style of the garden, but also some of the plants like the Tetrapanax. That one's shot up, hasn't it, since we were last here?
Really has done, yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got a Magnolia subspecies Acers, which is here.
Large leaf magnolia.
Large leaf magnolia.
Very
so
cool plant.
that should be growing up here. There's an Abutilon here as well that should be the hardy variety. And if it's not, it's in an area where hopefully it's going to be relatively well protected. Paulownias have really gone for it this year.
Oh, yes.
So there's a ginormous one back there that's kind of grown into the canopy of the trees above.
That is rapidly becoming an actual tree itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it there against the sky, but it is really impressive.
It needs cutting back this year. One thing that I didn't do, if I come through here, George.
Yes.
Let me move my my bush for you again.
Ah, there we go. See if it's any funny the second time round, won't we?
No, that's
it
more
wasn't.
viewers gone.
It was worth a try,
So this one last year,
This looks very cool.
the leaves were probably double the size.
They were actually, weren't they?
Yeah, so I didn't cut it back over winter, and so it sent out leaves on relatively old growth. So you can see where the old growth is here,
Yeah.
and then it sent out little things. Next year, the whole thing's
it
getting
right
cut
back.
down to about a foot, maybe.
So it's really sort of split its energy, hasn't it, between the different trunks there? It doesn't look quite as impactful for a real tropical garden, does it?
It's absolutely not. I have unfortunately seen my backside on that one. I wish I'd done what everyone else does, which is cut them back hard. But I didn't, you know. So you live and learn, and that is a lesson I'll be taking from this year. Canna Stuttgart's looking incredible.
Oh, yes.
Very, very little sunburn. This is another
Mule
one
leaf
which
looks
I
beautiful.
don't bring in. It stays in the ground year round. Don't mollycoddle it, and it is spread. Like, it is really spread from what was originally put in.
Very vigorous, isn't it, like Musifolia?
Absolutely. Amicia zygomeris, which is a new one to me this year as well. Really unusual. Supposedly hardy, but I think the
Yorkshire Chris grows it, doesn't he? He's a big fanner. I'm aware of that.
Absolutely. And this one came from Secret Garden Louth. If you go into one of their open days, they do have loads of plants for sale. You might be able to sneak one of Roger's collection away.
I have actually just shared that video today, and I've urged people to visit just to get into the sales area. After seeing the amazing gardens, some of the plants
you've
are
got
incredible.
to. I'm going on Monday on a gardening club visit.
A gardening club?
Yeah.
You really are a changed man now, aren't you? What sort of gardening club is it?
It's the Middle Raisin Gardeners Association.
You don't even live in Middle Raisin.
No, but my father-in-law does, so he's coming along.
Oh dear, you really are a changed man.
Absolutely.
No,
Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's get back.
Canna Pretoria? Canna Durban.
It could be Durban, yes.
Yeah, Canna
Beautiful
Durban.
foliage.
Sonchus, tree dandelion, stays in the ground. Don't bring it in. Grows back every single year. Persicaria growing through. I've just let that do its thing because it just looks so full and so cool.
It does indeed.
Irisine it's a really cool plant if you can get it.
Yeah, it's similar to a coleus, isn't it? It's
Similar
also
to
tender,
coleus,
but very bright, zingy, vivid colours.
And these are both different varieties of irisine,
They are
with some
indeed.
begonia in the middle, nasturtiums coming through, some self-seeded persicaria. I tried to pull that stuff out, and it's just grown back. You leave the smallest amount, and it comes back. And then I also spoke earlier in the year about underplanting this Trachycarpus, which, again, whether you can show an earlier video or not, but this has grown substantially.
This is only a very small pan.
It was a tiddler, and it's now underplanted with the Asarum European, and then some hardy bromeliads. There's some millet around there as well, and there's some coleus, which has become slug food.
It might actually have this year. I think it was that cool start to the year. It just didn't let the coleus grow, and it encouraged the slugs, which
It's been
is
a nightmare.
never a good mix.
I come out here every night with my head torch on and collect the slugs for the chickens, and it's a flipping nightmare. But this Echinops as well.
Oh, I love them.
It looks fantastic, but I pull this stuff out by the handful.
Yes.
And it still grows back.
It's incredible.
So it looks really, really cool.
And this here, I've got to say, I know obviously your sad loss over there, but how cool does this one look?
It looks fab, doesn't
that
it?
Magnificent steely blue colour.
Yeah, it looks fab. It's grown really, really well, and this
absolute stunner.
Everything this week has just absolutely gone for it with the heat that we've had.
It really has. I like the little details. To me, you've taken advantage of your circles, obviously, in your design. You've got these little, what people might see as an awkward gap, but you've really filled it with a lovely balanced display, haven't you? With the Phytolacca there, just tumbling down through the Colocasia, right down to more Iracine here, Coleus there, and then you've even gone for some Oxalis there, haven't you, to carry it down to the ground?
Yeah, that was that intentional planting of the Oxalis.
It really is beautiful.
These areas, there are bits here where this is maybe 10 centimetres deep, and it is a bloody nightmare to really do anything meaningful with. But I think I've done it. There's some ginger, there's irisine, there's different forms of coleus, there's nasturtiums, there's pink china, there's more Brazilian shield, there's the Phytolacca jobby.
And Opipogon there. We're mixing with some Ioniums.
Absolutely, with some Ioniums, and that's Aeonium velor. They were stem cuttings last year. And the plan is, ignore the sycamore.
I hadn't even seen it, Mark.
Yeah, well, everyone else has. Yeah, no. So the dahlia hasn't really it's not flowered.
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Hopefully will do. But the Tradescantia Maiden's blush, just as a bit of a contrast, and then this crinum.
That looks fantastic, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, you can't probably get anything that looks that tropical. That's hardy. It looks fab.
It really does. Are you not tempted to have more of those repeated through the garden?
There's another one here.
Oh, there we go.
And there's another one behind you, but that also seems to have come up blind.
So far, anyway.
So far, you know, hopefully it'll do something.
I've got to say, just standing here, the garden, it just looks so just magnificently complete, doesn't it?
Thank you.
It really is coming together, and you can sort of tell, or at least I can tell myself, that the areas before, which were filler plants, you can tell now you've really gone for it. Like the Colocasia there, doesn't, you know, those huge heart-shaped leaves there just complete the picture. It really looks tropical now, doesn't it?
It's evolved. Yeah, it's definitely evolved. And that kind of leads you nicely down to here, because this is a view. Okay, I don't have my paving yet. There is paving to go down. It's going to be sorted. But until that is sorted, if you stand here and look down that vista, ignoring the hose pipe on the right, I wanted this walk to look like a walk going to your Balinese villa with
Have
a
you got a
cocktail.
Balinese villa?
I don't have one. I'd love to have one.
But you don't need one now, do you, with all this
exactly.
to see? But wow. That is just insane, isn't it, looking down there? And we're only just into August. So we're filming this literally on the 1st of August. And
give it another month,
yeah.
You won't even be able to stand in there.
Do you know what, Matt? I think I might have to come back and we'll do another autumn tour, see how much everything's grown.
Well, if the people want to see it, then why not?
Well, that's it. If your security guards let me in again.
Yeah. These bananas were the ones that were the tallest this year, so well protected by the Tiki hut, and they started off this year here.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with these ones, but like I say, my whole plan for this area was to just make it look immensely tropical, as Balinese as I could.
Yeah.
The gingers unfortunately haven't flowered yet. They probably could do with being in more sun. But behind you,
early days.
I think I told you, I painted the monkeys a few years ago with yogurt.
Yes, you did indeed, which is a phrase that I don't think's been caught on camera before.
It wasn't my yogurt, it was natural yogurt.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I don't have that much of my own. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to leave that there.
I might just leave that in, just again as further proof that
that probably would have taken 4 years.
That monkey now, it looks, I don't even want to use the phrase natural now, but it certainly looks like it blends in with the garden.
It looks like it's been there for more than 4 years, let's put it that way.
It really does, and I think we'll leave it at that. This really looks incredible, and I think, to be honest, looking from this point of view, that Loquat up there, now the sun is just about to set, and you get that beautiful sort of glossiness on the leaves. How amazing do they look? They really do look tropical now, don't they?
And you know, these need hacking back. But my original plan, and you can see photos from the groups from when they were tiny. Like, they started off here, and in 4 years, they have grown to the point that these two canopies have basically merged into one.
They have, absolutely, over that archway.
Yeah.
And it looks stunning. Your master plan really is coming together, isn't it?
Isn't it amazing when a plan comes together? It doesn't seem to happen that often, but when it does, it can happen pretty triumphantly. One thing that I do want to say, and a real top tip, is these begonias. These begonias were from Parker's, and for dark shade under planting, you don't get much of a better pop of colour than these things.
To be honest, I think begonia is growing one of those plants now. Hardy begonias especially, but also even the sort of old-fashioned, summer bedding begonias. I think they're going to have a comeback, aren't they?
Unfortunately,
they're
these
dahlia
aren't.
of 25.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not hardy.
No, I appreciate that, but
I would love them to be hardy.
Certainly great for brightening up a shady spot, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Should we take a wander over to the lawn bit, and I can show everyone my fake triple header tree ferns?
Oh yeah, so this tree fern's obviously settling in, isn't it? Only recently gone in.
So these went in at the start of the week.
Yes.
So people may remember, fans of the show may remember.
All three of them.
Yeah, all three of them. Or the two left watching now, because I just offended one. My original very first purchase was here, which was the cut back, narrow fronded tree fern with the tiny piddly little stems. So this is my attempt at a natural looking triple header.
Yeah.
You've probably got a 3.5, 4 foot here, and then 6 foot, 6 foot, 7, 6.5 foot. Very, very shallowly planted.
Yes.
So the stakes here, so they're probably got maybe 3 or 4 inches into the ground itself. And the idea is over the next 3 or 4 years, they'll send some roots out, because what you don't want to do with these is put £80 a foot in the ground.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because you don't want to plant 240 quid, which thankfully these didn't cost me £80.
No, these are some of the plants that have been stood up around, you know, the back of your garden, aren't they? Patiently waiting.
That's right.
For their turn.
But the tree fern that was here hasn't gone. It's just gone to the nursing home at the back of the gunnerer bed.
Is that the equivalent of a dog going to the farmyard in the sky?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been put out to pasture for its nice retirement.
Yeah. And these chunky boys have moved in instead, haven't they?
Absolutely, and hopefully they will love the amount of water they're getting now, like the exposure, and they put out some fairly piddly, pathetic little fronds this year, but next year with a bit of TLC and maybe some food.
Ooh.
Really pushing the boat out. Again, I don't feed tree ferns. They get the leaf litter that falls in from the top, and that's about it. And you can see round here, this is my favourite tree fern round here. He doesn't have a name. Maybe he should do. There's nothing, by the way, nothing particularly new in there. Oh, actually, no.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
There is, Mark.
The two remaining viewers, I need your help. Dry shade.
Very dry shade.
Very dry shade.
Competition from a load of big, there's a lime tree there, a sycamore there, holly there, another sycamore over there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of root competition
It's
here.
a bloody nightmare.
Yes.
So, original idea was to put what you think might be quite happy, which is ferns. And you know, some ferns are happy. So the Cristata, the King's gone in this year.
There we go. Nearly had to climb
You break it, you buy it. There's some shuttlecock ferns that have gone in, but generally speaking, nothing thrives around here. The Farfugium thrives too well, by the way.
Oh, Petasites,
Yeah, Petasites, yeah. So that thrives to the point I have to pull the stuff out. You wouldn't see this bare soil at Secret Garden.
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't.
And that really shows, you know, their amount of time and dedication is really next level,
well,
isn't it?
anyone that can put the time and dedication into a garden that Jenny and Roger can deserve their garden to look quite good.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, this is an area which I find really, really hard to master.
Have you thought about aspidistras or maybe some astelia, something like that?
Well, I'm hoping that some people might, you know, whoever's managed to stay on for this long.
Leave a comment with some ideas and suggestions.
Exactly. Or what you know, you might have a similar situation in your garden that you found works really well. Because going down here, looking into an area where I can show you my favourite tree fern, but also an area with more dry shade, this one is probably my favourite because there's so much stuff growing on it.
So it's your favourite, not because it's a tree fern, but because of all the other plants that grow on it.
But it just looks so natural.
It does look very cool. And under this beautiful sort of canopy of trees above it, is this a plant which is definitely in a preferred place, Mark?
It's time for a catchphrase.
It
right
maybe could
plant,
be.
right place.
There we go.
But you've got, I mean, even next to cordyline that's super happy, there's some wild strawberries that have self-seeded, which I've done nothing with because I think they look really cool.
No, they do indeed, and it's a snack for your butlers as they're gardening on the lunch break, isn't it?
Well, yeah, no, they don't get lunch breaks, George. No.
I knew that was
They
coming.
don't get lunch breaks. Metapanax Delvier, I think it is, that's coming through. That looks fantastic.
It really
and
does.
Then look at the size of that Schefflera.
Yeah.
That was a tiddler.
Wow.
3 years ago.
That really has grown,
4
hasn't
years
it?
ago.
I was actually just watching one of your helpers, this bee over here, bzz, just flying out loud towards me. Beautiful to see. But that Schefflera, it has just absolutely rocked it up this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really gone for it.
Let's pop round the corner and see that in a bit more detail.
I'm not going to say it again.
This is a real adventure now, isn't it?
Macrophylla.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that, Mark.
No, I know that you're bitter.
Bitter memories.
Bitter,
Yours
yeah.
is looking fantastic, and there's no wonder under this overhead canopy.
Yeah, so it really is a deep shade canopy. So hostas, fully eaten, some heucheras, but this now what, double header, triple header? It just looks incredible. And there's a
really has grown well.
Taiwaniana behind it here. So this is a Taiwaniana which has grown from an absolute tiddler. And then this one, it's still got its label on.
Restricting it, yes.
This is a Schefflera Schwelliensis NJM.
Oh, that makes it even worse. That's one that I lost as well.
Get in!
So this area here is basically a gallery of the plants I can't grow and you can so spectacularly well. Look at that small grin again.
Without even trying.
No, it just happens. I mean, I might just chop all this bit out of the video and say, unfortunately, there's been some losses around.
Yes, but you know that when you were growing up as a kid and you saw that that blurred vision, the little girl with the scary rag doll.
Yeah.
There's no younger viewers left anyway.
No.
So.
One thing, I've mentioned it time and time again, and I'm sure there's people watching this that say, we've heard this before. Buy small tree ferns. I've got a couple of small ones with fronds that are possibly even longer than this. At the Secret Garden of Louth, Jenny and Roger have got another small one. Again, huge fronds. There's nothing wrong if you can only afford a small one, you can still get a magnificent plant from it, and in some ways better than buying a big trunk.
As long as you put it in the right place.
There we go.
Right plant, right place.
That was quite direct. The eye
Very
contact there was unnerving.
But look, this is 4 years worth of fronds.
There we go, a lovely brown skirt there.
2020, 2021, no, 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024. It's completely untouched, and look at all this leaf litter in here. So get in there. Look at all that leaf litter in there. That's all it needs.
Leaf litter.
That's where it derives its nutrition from. That's where it derives its protection from for winter. And
that's where you derive your smugness from. There we go.
Yes.
Come on, Mark, let's head round and see. I actually want to see some of these hanging baskets because obviously having recently been to the Secret Garden of Louth, I featured their containers because I thought they looked splendid. And I think you've captured some real beauty and elegance in your garden here as well.
This is a tried and tested formula for me in terms of hanging baskets. Lysimachia Gold, Calabrichoa, this is Mango. This is a double non-stop flowering begonia, and Thunbergia Pink. And I think for a tropical basket,
absolutely, can't agree more. Small gardens, urban gardens, people who just want a little shot of tropical colour, you can't go wrong with that combination there. And beautifully delivered, Mark. That could have been on TV concept. Again, Mark, yes, we don't need to go through this. That pine there, it looks fantastic. Are you calling it a Wallami or Wallamai pine?
Wallamai is like tomato, isn't it?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks so healthy. You've done good things, Mark. You've done good things, got to say.
And again, I don't even know how to begin to say that I've done it, but this has put on about 1.5 foot growth this year. Like, it's just really gone for it. But
it really has.
I'm looking forward to having to sneak in this little bit because this has grown astronomically big.
But they do stay quite narrow, don't they? So,
yes. Oh.
Although it's rapidly growing up. Oh, yeah, you just happen to bring, your cobbles into the focus of the video, hadn't you? That looks fantastic.
Alströmerias, incredible, hardy, grow back, look fantastic. This Brugmansia has gone in this year. This was a Secret Garden of Louth purchase again.
One of those that was overwintering in their spare room, yes.
I think in the bathroom. It's been fed weekly on their recommendation. Unfortunately, it's not flowered yet, but I really am hoping for some flowers.
Oh, it will.
I think they used it as propagation material last year, and there's a lot of cut ends. I think
it's maybe to fit it in the house.
That too, yeah. But I wonder whether it's suffered a bit this year because it got cut back so much last year. But I'm going to try and leave all this on. So I saw a picture of Shane Bilson put on just before I came out, and he's got the top of his little stream, and he's got his beautiful, probably about 300 Brugmansia flowers, just like really,
do you know what?
really rubbing it in.
I went to Shane's garden, it was a rainy day, and literally the week after I filmed that video, the amount of photos he had of all the lilies, the brugs flowering, it looked just a different garden again.
And it's amazing how you wait all year for August,
yes,
and then you get this month where everything just looks absolutely incredible.
To me, August is a month when it really happens, isn't it? Because let's face it, June, in a cool spring, a lot of the plants are just starting to get growing, aren't they? July, it can be a good month, but sometimes it's still, again, there isn't that consistent nighttime warmth. But August, that's when this magic happens,
August,
isn't it?
and the first 3 weeks of September is where it's at.
Beautiful.
And I can't wait to see it go from strength to strength. My only Strelitzia flower has come out deformed.
Oh no.
And it won't flipping come out. And I've tried to tease it out, and I've ripped it, and it seems to be rotten a bit now, and I'm a bit gutted.
That's certainly not a bird of paradise, is it, that one?
That's not in paradise. It might be a bird, but it's got its wings clipped.
It has indeed. I've got to say, I do like the obviously entirely intentional, just tying in with this beautiful euphorbia here, those gorgeous sort of granity cobbles there, and then your paving slabs. All those sort of silvery tones, and then the really brave and dazzling contrast of the Alströmeria there. That's the work of a really experienced, skilled plantsman, isn't it?
I'll have to.
Who did it?
I'll have to tip the butler. No,
It's coming together. I mean, even a broken clock's right twice a day, isn't it? So,
yeah, exactly. This has been in since the start. And again, going back to the whole original idea that I wanted bluish colours with the armata and the bluish colours here and what have you. But it has really evolved. And like I say, I've gone from having Balinese, palm beds, New Zealand, Mexico, and it's now just kind of like, you can't go to a garden centre and not pick up a plant. They need to go somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to mix and match and you have to put stuff in. And yeah.
When it does work, you just take the credit for it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, got to give myself the credit.
Now, I can hear a slight trickling, we'll go for,
Trickling,
of water.
yeah.
I thought one of the butlers was relieving himself after a busy 20-hour shift, but no, it's this lovely little water feature here. What's the name for this, Mark? This traditional water feature? I'm not setting you up for a joke there. Is it a deer scarer or something like that?
No, a deer scarer is something that kind of fills with water, falls
And then
over and
drops.
makes a dropping noise.
To scare the deer, yes.
I want to say that this is called a tsubai, maybe, something like that. I could have completely made that up.
It does sound
but
like you're making it up.
There are Japanese kneeling stones that go around it. This was bought from the Japanese Garden Centre, a fantastic place to get involved with if you can in terms of adding traditional Japanese stuff. And this is the Japanese area. And
just in case people didn't get the hints from the, the Acers.
It's the only area that's managed to stay relatively constricted to its original theme. And
you've been very restrained and well behaved here, Mark.
People may remember that originally here there was the sago palms.
Yes.
Well, the sago palms have been moved and they've been replaced by the Acers.
We will see the sago palm bed very soon because it's looking lush and very healthy.
So the
isn't it?
Acers look awesome. I'm really happy with them. They're all quote-unquote dwarf varieties and they shouldn't get more than 3 metres.
We'll see,
But
yes.
they might revert to type and be actual trees, but you know, we'll find that out.
And I've got to say, the dark crimson reds, the burgundies, look beautiful with the amazing Aralia.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Elata variegata behind it, which sounds like a Harry Potter spell, doesn't it? But
it does,
what a fantastic plant.
Sounds like you need to get your wand out, George.
Another example of your rapidly declining sense of humour.
Listen, it works.
Maybe I've just got unrealistic expectations of where it was before.
Well, yes, possible. Yeah.
Possibly. Lovely sort of rugby feature there. I like that.
Yeah, these things, children do happen to filter into the garden occasionally.
They do indeed, but they're very swiftly ushered inside by your team of maids, aren't they?
Yeah, my hydro fog has just come on. But there's been an awful lot of additions to here this year.
The humidity.
Yeah, so the bromeliad trees have started to have bromeliads put on them. They need to have these cut off and have some moss put around them. But they're starting to send up pups. They're starting to be quite happy. There's pups coming out here. So they're starting to
They're really outgrowing, aren't they? Just
yeah, they are.
In that one.
Yeah.
Fair play. That wasn't so too much surprise. But
No, I mean,
they're doing well.
Not a surprise from me, but I mean, Colocasia pink china.
Yes, let's face it, Mark. No one's looking at that Colocasia,
No.
are they? They're looking at this magnificent Monstera. That's a Thai constellation, isn't it?
It's a Thai constellation.
That's a very special plant, which some would say must have been given to you by a very special friend.
Well, yes. I'm not sure who it was now.
It's just because it got too big for my house.
Yeah, it got too big for your house, and it was donated to the Mark Goodlad greenhouse.
Yeah, well, I saw, a struggling young gent like yourself. You're trying to build up your garden, literally, on a shoestring, aren't you, budget? So I thought, where better place could a magnificent plant come? Let's face it, there's not many people around is there with heated outdoor greenhouses.
I mean, in all fairness,
going.
in terms of letting someone have it who can probably put it in a nice place, I might be on that list.
You very firmly tick that one box, yes.
Yeah.
Really done some amazing things. It's a bit stripped down, isn't it, on previous years?
Yes, it is. So I haven't replaced the bromeliads that I lost because I thought, well, I lost them for a reason.
One of them was basically the partner,
this
the brother.
big guy.
Yeah.
Which is still big. And I did have one last year. So
You did
that
indeed.
is in here. And it has grown this year. And it's grown really nicely. But it's going to take a good few years to get to that sort of size.
The monumental proportions of that beast over there.
This guy comes on twice a day for an hour and a half. And obviously you can see everything's enjoying it. The papaya is looking fantastic. This is going to carry on growing.
Is that mountain papaya?
It is a mountain papaya. And this stays
cool.
in leaf all year because it's so happy. cordyline TIs or ties, whatever people call them.
Basically the proper tropical cordyline.
Proper tropical cordyline. But you've also got the impassions, balance. So just some, like, one thing that I've struggled for in this space the last few years is flowers.
Yeah.
So I've added flowers in, and I think that they look fab, really.
It really is looking just stunning, and ooh, this is growing really well.
It's philodendron by something.
The one that's just literally at the secret out of Louth that no one could say there either.
Yes, sounds about
I'll
right.
put it on the screen again. I mean, it's probably not that difficult
By
to pronounce.
pedifolia, maybe.
Yeah,
It's fantastic. It looks really,
it
really
does.
cool.
And the bromeliads.
Bromeliads are looking fantastic. These have had bits chopped off them for my bromeliad tree outside, which I'll show you shortly.
Yeah,
we'll
have to see that.
All of these kangaroo mosses have self-seeded and they've started growing out of canopies, and they're all over. And I've just really let it do its thing.
I've got to say, I know we're filming a video and everything, but it's hard not to say, literally, bromeliads grown in a tree in a heated, tropical outdoor greenhouse. The golden sun shining through a forest of tree ferns outside.
In Lincolnshire.
It doesn't get much better, does it?
In Lincolnshire.
In Lincolnshire. You are very much living the dream.
In all fairness, it's probably not something that too many normal, sane people are doing.
No.
The bromeliad bed is looking very green. There is a distinct lack of sunlight because there's shade cloth everywhere.
Yes, so there is shade cloth and many passifloras growing on the ceiling, isn't there?
Yeah, and if these guys were in full sun, they would be so much more colourful. These pink tips would be much pinker, but you know what? You got to take the rough with the smooth.
It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
so primarily in this greenhouse, your summer care is obviously more watering, hydrofogger, and the shade cloth to
and I have fed everything this year.
Yes, well, I think it sort of shows you that the plants that are here, that are alive, they're definitely like they're thriving, and I think with a couple months' growth, this will really look sort of splendid and full again, won't it?
I mean, I'm as happy with this as I have been in years.
Oh, absolutely.
And hopefully I'm starting to learn from my mistakes of what's hardy and what's not.
I think we need to see the counterpart, an alternative universe to your hot, humid greenhouse. Let's go to this succulent border and look at plants which come from the drier parts of the world.
So yeah, the drier parts of the world are here. So obviously we've got the arid bed behind, which we'll touch on in a moment. But this is my attempt at a bromeliad tree.
I like it. I think it looks fantastic.
Potentially, you know, my wife laughed.
That's a bit unfair, isn't it? I mean,
I totally agree, but she would be tending to try and take the mick out of me where she can. There are a lot of succulents in here.
Yes.
A lot of aeoniums.
Some of which have come from the secret garden of Louth, have they? Or is that the big agaves in the bed that we'll see very soon?
Yes, the big agaves in the bed you'll see. This was from this great big money tree was from the secret garden of Louth. All the other stuff was kind of collections. So these ginormous aeoniums, these are Sunk Island. This was Secret Garden of Louth. And then all of these mangaves they've been purchases over a period of time, but I've really enjoyed.
Is that the official story that for your wife?
Yeah, that's what we'll tell her. Anyway.
They definitely look.
Yeah,
well established to me. They've been there years, haven't they?
All of these, putting these in pots, I mean, I know I'm going to have to bring them all in. I know that they're going to need to be
doing that anyway, wouldn't you?
But yeah, but I think for a summer display, I think they look pretty epic.
Oh yeah, and the other thing about having a display like this is that you can change it around every year, but also you can pack it in without having to worry about year-on-year growth, can't you?
Yes.
If these were all, I know your original plan was to have the agaves in here, you'd plant around them, and within 2 or 3 years, you'd have to take plants out again, wouldn't you? So they might as well be in pots, you can do what you want.
And so the change and the compromise was that rather than putting the agaves in here that I wanted to put in, I've had to chop around in the actual arid bed itself and put some different stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm as happy with these as I can be. I got this Aeonium Rondale.
Rondale?
I think it's called Rondale. Let me just double check.
You just come up with random
Blushing
names.
Beauty, sorry.
Rondale?
No, there is a Rondale. He's here. He's here.
Sounds like a star of a particular genre of online films.
This is him, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, that is Rondale. Okay,
yeah, so
I'll let you off.
That came from Jonathan at Plant Candy.
Yeah.
And he's also got some fantastic weird and wonderful stuff. All of this stuff together, like I say, I think individually planted out, they look cool. En masse,
Yeah.
Just standing here and seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Aeonium heads pointing out to you, just looking so otherworldly.
It does look very cool, doesn't it?
So in terms of the brief that I wanted to hit this year, ticked.
In my garden videos, I always sort of mention about you don't want a garden to feel like a collection, but I think there's something to be said, particularly for exotic plant enthusiasts, about having a collection in your garden. It doesn't have to be the whole garden, but something where you display something like this, just absolute perfection. They just look beautiful, don't they? All the different colours, textures, leaf sizes and shapes. Again, I think you've really pulled out of the bag, Mark.
Thank you. Well, this was inspiration from Jane and Alan Scorer in Winterton.
Oh yes, another place I've been to, yes.
Yeah, so go back through George's archives and you'll be able to see that in their summer tour, when you walk into their garden, they have all these succulents on display, and it really made me think, you know what, I'm going to go for that. So that's where this inspiration came from. So thank you for that.
I like the way you've mixed in the cacti, just a succulent. I just think it's fantastic. Of all the plants that we wouldn't really associate with growing in UK gardens, here altogether, such a brilliant hit of colour, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy with them. Which takes us round to the sagos.
Sago bed.
So here's the transplanted sagos from where the Acers now are. These have come through.
They look very, well, very lush and healthy, don't they?
They're very lush and healthy. I'm impressed. They haven't flushed this year. They are just as green this year as they were when they went in last year.
Absolutely. So I know a couple of people commented in the last video asking what you'd actually done with these. What do you do in terms of winter protection for these cycads?
You can see there's a post that's been left in here.
Oh, so, I didn't see that because it was black and blends in with the background.
Absolutely. Well, actually, you might be able to even say that whatever distance this is now.
See we go in.
So maybe they have grown, maybe it has grown 3 or 4 inches. But this will get
more than that.
Okay, thank you.
You really are a changed man now, aren't you?
I don't have anything to offer as a comparison.
Leave
that there. But these posts will get lifted on either side, screwed to the oak at the bottom, and then sheets of perspex will go on the top, and that will stop the worst of the rain, the snow, the sleet.
It absolutely
Sides will stay open. And again, loads of leaf litter in there because I'm just absolutely useless at trying to get it out. And let me tell you, trying to get leaf litter out of there is not for the faint-hearted.
No,
so that just stays there. And that'll offer a bit of protection as well.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Genuinely beautiful. I'm impressed by it. I know obviously your plan here was to have real planted en masse, wasn't it? To create that look of sort of the Floridian theme parks that you go to on a monthly basis.
So underneath here is where it's due to, so you've got Carex Everillo, and you've also got Hacanacloa macra green form.
Yes.
These are all due to eventually turn into proper mounds of really soft grass.
I've got to say, if I was going to choose a grass ground here, Hacanacloa would absolutely be it. It just looks so stunning, doesn't it? As it sizes up and you've got that sort of flowing mound of beautiful green foliage.
And they've doubled in size this year. I'm happy with them. I'm going to get some more, pop them in, because I really want the summer to be that absolute flow. And they'll flow and they'll drape over and they should look really good, hopefully.
So this is the yucca and agave bed, isn't it, Mark?
It
Real
is.
arid plants from hotter, dry climates than drizzly parts of North Lincolnshire.
Yeah, so there's obviously pots that have gone into fill space until the other guys really get going and get big.
There's been some changes here, hasn't there?
There has. So a Agave Media Pictoralba that used to be there has come out and is now in a pot down here.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's stunning,
so
doesn't it?
The plan is that needs to come in, be more protected and more looked after.
Right, okay.
It's been replaced by a Parii.
Yep, very tough, hardy agave.
Very tough, hardy. A Ovatifolia Ice Heart.
Yes, yep.
Ovatifolia Emerald. Montana. And an Agave Ovatifolia Vanzi.
So presumably you've seen my video with Pan Global Plants and the monsters that these can turn into, haven't you?
And that
How
is
incredible do they look?
Hopefully what when you do an unsuspecting video in several years,
yes,
that's hopefully what they'll look like here. And that's what I'm planning for them to look like, because
absolutely.
I've not put, I mean, okay, you've got, by the time these guys are big, these guys will also be big.
This is it,
so these will have grown up, and the stuff around, you can see I've not planted them at ridiculous spacing intervals. So there's not so much in there that they're going to compete. They should be able to grow. They should be able to grow to their full potential.
I mean, they're obviously sort of each plant can be, we'll say 5 to maybe 7 foot across at its peak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. You've given a sensible amount of room, and a lot of the plants around them, like the Yucca rostrata, they are going to be up and out of there in no time at all, aren't they? Comparatively.
But the thing is that even if you haven't left enough space, you know what it's like. You get carried away.
Absolutely.
You put stuff in, you probably think, oh God, what am I going to do in a few years' time? And there's a chap on Instagram, Spiky Vista is his handle.
Still in the garden, it's another
incredible.
succulent.
Everything done in a very similar way. Took a lot of inspiration from him. He showed me pictures of his front border and how everything was mixed together in a very similar way to this, but obviously much, much more advanced, much more established. And so he gave me the advice on the Parii, the Montana and the Ovatifolia as what he found over the years had been the hardiest for him. Now, okay, he's down south, but this bed here, and you can see by the black batten in here, this also gets complete winter protection, perspex over the top.
Yeah, you do put the effort in, don't you?
The effort is to keep this looking as good as possible. But as I've touched on before, the plan is to extend that over to the bananas as well.
I think it's worth it. And just one little thing I was going to mention, this agave Americana, is that a Linden Nurseries pot there?
That is. And
how cool does that look with that agave?
And it's not an Americana, it is a... Oh, brilliance.
Do you know what? I've actually just seen that variegation in the leaf there.
Yeah.
Very subtle, but yeah, fantastic.
Thank you. But yeah, that's a Linden Nurseries buy. So went to Paul and he had the agave and the pot, got them together. I think it looks great.
It absolutely does. So I think there's only one area that I haven't really seen, and that's just round this corner, past your lookalike statues here.
Yes.
And I like this area around here because you've got so many big, ridiculous plants just positioned against the walls, and I think they look incredible. So and I know you're under pressure to move some of them, but I think that'll be an absolute shame.
So this one got cut back at the wife's insistence because we couldn't open the door. And
yeah, it'll take a bit of cutting back, won't it?
It was cut back hard here, and it's re-sprouted in less than 2 months to get to this stage.
It wants to live, Matt, doesn't it? It wants to live.
And the thing is that you can treat them quite meanly.
You can indeed.
This Polycarpa green fingers.
How good does that look there?
It looks pretty awesome.
I mean, let's face it, any exotic plant looks great against a traditional stone wall, doesn't it? But this Polycarpa, I mean, just a normal Fatsia, I've said it time and time again, Fatsia japonica, if you grow it well, it just looks stunning, doesn't it?
But if you can add a bit of variety,
oh yes,
it's awesome.
That really is an absolute beauty and a beast in one.
You've got a Daphne here, which you can see how many bees and flies and all sorts are on. You got the Japanese anemone coming through, adding that real pop of nice colour, that real subtlety.
And when Nick Mason talks about relaxing the garden, softening the plants, I think that there just sort of brings all the planting in, doesn't it? It takes it away from being a proper jungle to suddenly being a more sort of gentle area that fits in with the house really well, doesn't it?
That's a cottage garden plant.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, I think it was there when we bought the house. It's been there 10 years.
But it works, doesn't it? It works. It's got those lovely sort of palmate leaves, hasn't it?
Yeah. And then, even though this is a standard Rex, a standard Tetrapanax, it's not a Rex, it's standard.
It's still a big beast.
It's a big boy.
Yes.
It's a big boy.
So there we go.
And it is looked after by the shade of the house. It has nothing done to it. And this had flowers on it in December last year. There's colour everywhere. There's something to look at absolutely everywhere. These hanging baskets, more Calabrachoa, and then this is Dichondra. And this, in terms of just a pop of that real steely blue, en masse, it looks awesome.
It does indeed.
Like the velvety look and the variegation in that leaf, I think just looks absolutely epic. So that's another thing I will be doing going forward, is replicating that.
In terms of looking epic, I think to end this video, we need to just walk out into this area here. It's like low golden sun now is just hitting the garden. This beautiful view here is just framed by progressive sculptures, planting, this lovely arch. How good does this look? You must be so proud to look out and think, I designed this, I planted this, I maintained this.
It's what I had in my mind's eye 4 years ago, and more than. And I don't think I've ever had it come together quite so well. How many times do you have something look in your mind exactly how you wanted it to
Oh,
look?
absolutely. We're all our own sort of worst critics, aren't we?
And I am a big critic of me, very much so.
I mean, some of those flaws really need to be improved on, but most of the garden is absolutely just incredible. I do love it, and to me, it's just the subtle changes you made, like swapping out the brahia there, putting that Butyagrus in. That green foliage really ties in with this plant in here so well, doesn't it? The Spanish moss over there gives that sort of otherness, doesn't it, for Loquat? And then obviously the bananas and Colocasias, that combo in the distance. It looks phenomenal. I think you've really done well this year.
Thank you.
What, I've got to say, is the plan going forward? What things would you like to change about this garden?
Do you know, that's really hard to answer. Every year so far, I think I've said, I want to change this, I want to change that, I want to change the other. But other than that dry shade area, I don't think there's anything I'd do a lot to now.
So you're at a point now where you can sit back, relax, enjoy the garden for what it is, and enjoy watching some of these magnificent specimens grow up even more and give this garden that real next level of exotic tropical impact.
I think so. The thing is that now, unfortunately, this is the bit which I find the absolute hardest, which is just pure patience. The patience to allow the palms to grow, the patience to allow the brugmansias to get bigger so they flower the year after, the patience to allow the tree ferns to settle in so they don't need the stakes holding them up. About the only thing that I might consider to do is these daylilies, as fantastic as they look when they're in flower, when they're not flowering, they're not all that special. The irises look great when they're in flower. This time of year, they don't look anything fantastic. Whether they could be replaced by something a little bit more tropical or not, I don't know. There is a small woolly pine down here, which has really suffered for being in the shade of the iris.
It's still growing away though, isn't it?
It is growing, but it's just not, maybe it's just purely by comparison.
You see the one behind it there and you think this one should be, getting on that way, shouldn't it? So
I think probably the next step is to say, maybe I'll have to think about the quarry.
Well, the quarry, what is the latest on that? For anyone who's watched this far, I'm sure they'll have seen the previous epic
Probably
quarry
have,
project.
yeah. I've done absolutely nothing to it. This has taken all of my focus this year.
But there have been some issues why you couldn't get on out there, isn't there?
There are issues, yeah. There was issues with regards to planning permission, boundaries, and because there's a train line over the back, it's agreeing where the boundary is from the train line, where I can put my fence, what's theirs, what's mine.
Practicalities and sensible legal issues that need sorting out before the
sensible
excitement
stuff. I mean, I'm not renowned for my sensibleness, but for the meantime, this area is the area which I'm having to put all my focus and attention on. And as you can see, this year compared to previous years, it has had a lot of attention.
It absolutely has. And I think, to be honest with you, praise doesn't come lightly from my mouth, but I really am absolutely impressed with the change it made this year and the overall feel. It is now taking on that next level of jungle vibes, isn't it? A really beautiful garden. Bali meets North Lincolnshire, and what a mix it is. So thank you very much, Mark, for this tour around the garden. Have you got any final words of wisdom to share with a few viewers that are left watching this?
Well, I haven't given anyone any wisdom yet.
Well, that's very true. So why break a tradition?
Why break a habit of
exactly
a lifetime?
That. So be ridiculous, go big, change things around every year. Don't be afraid to experiment. And in just a few years' time, this garden is 5 years old now, isn't it? Something like that.
5 years since this was all lawn.
5 years. So if you are really prepared to follow your passion, dream big, and put design together yourself, this is potentially the sort of thing that you could create. So thank you for showing us around, Mark.
Thank you for coming round. Thank you for looking round and showing off what I've managed to kind of curate, I guess.
That really is the word, isn't it? For standing back, the overall direction and enjoying what's here. So I think I'll come back again, like I said, if the security guards let me in a couple months' time, and we'll see this garden for a magnificent autumn tour when this area here is looking its absolute best. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time. See you later.
Right plant, right place. 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Aeonian heads pointing out to you.
As long as you put it in the right place. There we go. Right plant, right place.
It's time for a catchphrase.
It
right
really could
plant,
be.
right place.
There we go.